the morning, I get on my knees. I did learn from the Master, he taught me to pray. I read on from the scriptures, the patience of Job. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Jesus is the Redeemer and friend, the only comforter when you feel you are alone. He will be there when you cry out. Keep on your faith and live with hope. When you get into trouble, lift up your head and look up to the mountains where your help comes from. He truly has a refuge all night, all day. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Jesus is the Redeemer and friend, the only comforter when you feel you are alone. He will be there when you cry out. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Jesus is the Redeemer and friend, the only comforter when you feel you are alone. He will be there when you cry out. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Keep on your faith. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Keep on your faith. Keep on your faith and live with hope. Jesus is the Redeemer and friend.
I will sing to the Lord of my life. As long as I shall live, I'll sing praises to my King, who brought me out of darkness into his marvelous light. By his grace, I gained eternal life.
Maybe please,
Oh, suddenly, sweet
ta-da,
my soul,
ta-da,
oh, my joy.
oh my joy comes from the Lord, made the heaven and earth and my strength and song from his word. He is my refuge and strength in the storm, and I will sing this song to the Lord.
I will shout to the Lord of my life. As long as I shall live, I'll shout praises to my King, who brought me out of darkness into his marvelous light. By his grace, I gained eternal life.
Maybe please,
Oh,
ta-da,
suddenly,
ta-da,
my soul,
ta-da,
oh, my joy.
oh my joy comes from the Lord, who made the heaven and earth and my strength and song from his word. He is my refuge and strength in the storm, and I will sing this song to the Lord. Through the darkest of night and the brightest of days, I will firmly stand and sing thy praise to my Redeemer, the Ancient of Days. A song I'll gladly raise, gladly raise. My joy comes from the Lord. Let the heaven and earth and my strength and song from His word. He is my refuge and strength in the storm, and I will sing this song to the Lord. Oh, sing this song to the Lord. I will sing this song to the Lord.
Okay, as we have been having this topic, and I pray that all of you have enjoyed these topics, but not only that, but also I pray that you are going to apply it in your lives. You know, when I look into your wonderful young faces, I can see a very bright future for each one of you. And I pray that that future is not going to be stolen or to be robbed from you by any of these harmful habits. And I'm going to, in fact, tell you some stories tonight about friends of mine whom we shared when we were high school, and because all of their detrimental habits have wreaked havoc to their lives, okay? The big problem that we are facing, especially for young people, is actually smoking. I don't know whether some of you are smoking here in campus, whether you hide, go up to the attic, and start to puff something. I suggest if you're doing that, you might as well go up to the attic and, in fact, pray to the Lord. Approximately 80% of adult smokers started smoking before the age of 18, and that age many of you belong to. And this is also the age that my friends had started to smoke. Every day, nearly 3,000 young people under the age of 18 become regular smokers. Can you believe it? 3,000. I know you have a population here of about 3,000, and that kind of a population, the number of young people who are getting into smoking every day. Okay? Nearly all first use of tobacco occurs before high school graduation. Now let us look into the situation here in Kenya. Okay? You will notice that this is actually the average, and Kenya actually falls. Okay? Kenya actually falls under Africa. Hello. In Africa, 23% of the males actually, and 2.5% of the females are smoking. It's quite a big amount of number of people. Or let us say about 12.8% of the people here in Kenya are actually smoking. But they project that by 2025, this number is going to increase. From 23, it's going to increase to 34. And maybe the females, oh, good, because then the females, there's going to be a decrease. Very good, ladies. Continue this good work, okay? But in the overall, it is going to be 18.1% of the population are going to be smoking. So we pray that by giving you these lectures, you are going to take heed and not be part of these dreadful statistics. They said that 7 million people die every year because of tobacco smoking. And here once again, okay, this is actually a group of countries that actually are fighting against tobacco. And Kenya is here. 11.6% of the population from 2012. 2012 to 2016, 11%. So that's about 1 in 10 are actually smokers here in Kenya. And this is a big hazard because they found out that if there are about 1,000 smokers, 500 of them are going to die of smoking. You know, you're going to say, anyway, you know, my grandfather actually was smoking and he is still alive. It's true because some people, even though they smoke, they are not going to die. Like some people are going to actually take liquor and they are not going to become addicted. But the chances are 1:2, that is terrible. Okay? It says, for every bit of cigarette that you smoke, you're cutting your life by 5 minutes. Okay. That is serious. Okay, we are going to some more deal with those other problems of tobacco. The World Health Organization, the highest health body in the world, has actually declared war against tobacco because they say that tobacco is the #1 cause of preventable death. That means That doesn't necessarily have to happen. Preventable. And yet, why is it that people are dying? Is because of just this leaf. Okay? How is tobacco being used? Okay, number one, I don't know whether you have seen this. This is actually called an electronic cigarette. It is called vaping. These are one of the latest. What they do is that this chamber, actually, this is the nicotine, this is the liquid. And what happens is that there is a heating element here, and you have the battery here. The battery is going to heat this. And when this nicotine is going to be heated, it produces fumes or smoke, which they're going to smoke. Now, they say, well, it's much better because it does not include the other carcinogenic substances. But really, they have found out that it is not still safe to be recommended. Okay? Now, like for instance, a father left his nicotine because these days they put in several flavors. You can have it in strawberry, in vanilla, or in chocolate. So his boy was so curious that he actually opened the pack and started to taste it. And because it was a bit flavorable to him, he decided to keep on licking and sucking it. And in the end, he actually died. Because you see, this nicotine can increase your heart rate, and you can in fact die of a heart attack. So in a way, that boy died of a heart attack. And also the problem with this, what we call vaping, okay, or electronic cigarettes, is that the heating element can overheat. And so while people are smoking, all of a sudden it can explode, and it explodes in your face. It is going to cause damage to your face. And they have found out now that it is also a cause of cancer, because there are what we call aldehydes that are going to be heated. And as a result, it is going to cause cancer. And nicotine is going to increase your heart rate. It's also going to increase in your heart attacks. Okay, I don't know whether you have seen this, but this is also a smoking party. They call it hookah. Have you seen this? Wherein people come together, and what they do is that this is what we call the heating element. There's going to be water here, and you can see bubbles coming out. And this is where the cigarette, or what we call tobacco, is going to be placed. And can you see, people are sharing together. It has the same problem because they say, well, maybe it's a better way of smoking because it is being filtered. I tell you, it is the same effect as smoking. And of course, people actually use chewing tobacco. I don't know here in Kenya, but I think there are several, maybe some of you, okay. There are several people in the village. What they do is that they raise tobacco and then they pluck the leaf and then they chew it. Why? It's because it gives them energy. It's actually true. We are going to explain to you where does the energy come from. It gives them drive. But the problem is that that leaf is actually carcinogenic. Number two, it actually takes a longer time for the nicotine to take effect because it first is going to be chewed, it goes to your stomach, and finally into your blood. Whereas if you're going to smoke, the effect is actually faster. So people who chew tobacco, they just keep on chewing tobacco the whole day. And we are going to show you what are the bad effects, okay? So really, it is a smoke, a legal smoke, that really kills people. In fact, it murders. The reason why we put there murder is because the tobacco company knows that they are still selling a product of death. Even way back in 1965, tobacco company already knew that what they are selling can cause people to die, but they just keep on hiding it under the carpet. Nobody should know about it, hush, hush, until the WHO actually came in 1999, 2000. They said, no, we should make a stop out of this. Murder means you already know what is going to happen, and yet you continue to sell, and that's the problem, okay? Well, one of the big problems of actually smoking is these lungs. Can you see how this lungs is being roasted? It is like actually a barbecue now, eh? Whereas this one is a very clean lung, and because you expose the lungs to smoke, it results to that like brownish, blackish lung. And this is exactly what happened to my friend in high school. I was something like Form 4, okay, Form 4, equivalent to what you have here right now. And we had this boy, his name was Ralph. And Ralph's father was actually a chain smoker. When you say chain smoker, it is one smoke after the other. After that, okay, get another one. Chain, one after the other. And Ralph, in some ways, had gotten the habit of his father, although he was not as serious as his father that was chain smoking, but he would be smoking once in a while. And you know, when you're going to smoke, you don't want to smoke alone. That's the smoker. I said, okay, have a cigarette. And so he decided to teach one of our classmates. His name was Robert. Okay, teach Robert how to smoke. And this is it, because I know here in the campus there are some older guys who are going to teach you younger people to learn how to smoke. As I said, because when you smoke, it's always good to have company. Bad company, okay? And, well, I actually did not know how serious the smoking habit of Robert was, how hooked he was. But I later on heard that he also became a chain smoker, meaning he could finish 1 or 2 packs a day. 2010, I actually heard the news that Robert actually died of cancer. Whereas Ralph, he was able to stop smoking. So I actually even see Ralph today, and he is actually all right because he was able to stop. So the problem is that maybe the guy who's going to introduce you to smoking would be able to stop, but then you get hooked because smoking is very addictive, okay? Another viewpoint of the lung, and smoking kills. Number 1, it causes premature aging. Do you want to have what we call accelerated aging? I can see right now you are young, you are beautiful, full of energy, and yet if you are going to smoke, you are going to be like this lady. See, for the ladies you can see, these are actually twins. This one is not a smoker, whereas the other one is a smoker. Can you see how her eye bags are coming out? Can you see the wrinkles that she has? Can you see now what we call this crow feet? Accelerated aging, okay, for the men. Okay, similarly, these are actually also twins. Can you see the big difference for a person who is a non-smoker and a smoker? You can see the accentuated lines on his face and on his forehead. Of course, the end result is death. As we had mentioned, if there are 1,000 smokers, 500 are going to have premature death. 1 person dies every 6 seconds. So as we are sitting here, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 1 died. 1, 2, 3, 4, another 1 died. That's how serious it is. That's why. And we don't want you to be one of those 6. Every 6 seconds, one is going to die, just like my classmate who actually died. Now, why do people smoke? We know that it is actually going to cause death, and yet you ask the question, why is it that people indulge in smoking? And I think you better also analyze yourself to find out on what category you belong to. Okay, number 1, especially with ladies. Ladies actually use this, especially in South Africa. When you drive actually along the freeway or in the roads in South Africa, the ladies, because many of them have rich husbands and then they're not working, they're going to have a cigarette in one hand and they're driving. Not only that, but of course, another hand, they have cell phone. Hello, 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 hello. Why it is true that tobacco suppresses your appetite. And a lot of women have actually lost weight because of taking tobacco. So you're going to say, okay, that's very good. But unfortunately, if that is your idea, yet it is going to produce other detrimental and deleterious effects. So it is not really a very good way of suppressing your appetite or letting you lose weight. There are other means that you can actually lose weight. One way is to cut on your food. Number 2 is to do exercise. These are healthy ways. Number 2, peer pressure. I don't know how many of you have started tobacco because you are being pressurized. As I said about Robert, because this Ralph was pressurizing him, being a bigger boy, and finally he actually succumbed to tobacco smoking. Stress reliever. You're going to say, okay, I think I'm going to need that because I'm high stress here in this university. It's true, all of us are going to be under stress, but it is a matter of being able to handle our stress. You know what happens is that when people are under stress and they take a cigarette, when they puff that cigarette, okay, immediately in 10 seconds, that nicotine is going to go to your lungs, and from the lungs, it goes straight to your brain. That's how fast it can actually act. And because nicotine produces what we call, it actually stimulates the dopamine centers or the pleasure centers. We discussed about yesterday about the pleasure centers which God has placed to each one of us, like the pleasure of eating or seeing a loved one or having a boyfriend or maybe having a party. Those are pleasurable events, you see. But this one is actually a negative or deleterious way of stimulating your pleasure centers. So now when that happens, that's why some people, they actually use immediately cigarettes when they are under stress. When they're at work, okay, they get out of the workplace, then they start to have cigarettes, you see. But then they don't realize that as they are going to be relieved by stress, there is going to be a greater stress that is going to follow them because they're going to become sick. Okay, parental influence. I don't know whether you're having your parents who are smoking or maybe your uncles are smoking. You recognize this guy. Now can you just imagine? I hope that he has already kicked the habit because he was trying to kick the habit, okay? Curiosity. Oh, I remember when we were still kids, some of the kids would actually get those butt ends of the cigarettes and say, okay, let's try. Because they see adults, you see. Okay. And these days, there are cigarette companies that give free samples. You go to parties, you go to gatherings, then these cigarette companies will be distributing cigarettes because they know. They are going to invest maybe for you for free cigarettes for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks' time to 4 weeks' time, you are going to be addicted. So can you just imagine the wonderful investment? You invest for maybe 4 weeks, and you have a regular customer for the rest of their lives, for the next 10 to 15 years. So when you see these people distributing cigarettes out there, do not touch them. And of course, false advertising. Have you actually seen cigarette companies advertising about the evil effects of what we call cigarette smoking? And what do they use? They use these actors. Like, for instance, this actor, Martin Sheen. I think it's Martin Sheen. And here is also Pierce Brosnan, what we call James Bond. And, of course, beautiful ladies. So when you look at them, oh, I also like to be that actor. So let me just stay so that I can. And then you pretend that you're also just like an actor. Woo. Being sophisticated, but in fact, you are fooling yourself. Okay? And of course, there is Uma Thurman there, you see, smoking. But the tobacco companies do not show the real story of smoking. Okay? Do they show this person here? Number one, look how old she is. And number two, there is a hole here. Because she developed actually obstruction and cancer of the throat that the doctors have to put what we call a hole for her to be able to breathe. This lady now smoking, and that is it. Cancer of the lips. Okay, this lady too, she has now a tube that is coming out because of smoking. Gangrene. Okay, can you see how the foot now is being swollen? And of course, you see, guys, come on, do you like to kiss a girl like this? I'm sure you know, you see the teeth are falling, not only that, but you have also bad breath, isn't it? But you can be as serious as this. Can you see now? This is the jaw, this part. It is being eaten by cancer cells. Okay, once again, 1 out of 2 smokers will actually die. And in the whole world, there are 1.1 billion people who are smoking. If you actually have a population of about 7.5 billion right now, that means 1 out of 7 is actually a smoker. 5.6 million kids are going to die smoking. Now, can you see the big money that these, what we call cigarettes company are getting because of this this product that can kill? 744 billion in 2014. 744 billion US dollars. Do you know what is your GDP here in Kenya? How much your country is producing? Because it actually says that out of about 200 countries in the world, only 18 countries have actually a GDP or gross domestic product higher or equal to this 744 billion. Okay, let's see Kenya. Statistics for Kenya. Kenya has only what we call a gross domestic product of 53 billion. Whereas the tobacco company has 774 billion. So that's the reason why they keep on selling this product. Now, what is tobacco good for? One of the good things of tobacco is that you can use it for being a weed killer, insect killer. You try it. You get the tobacco and you put it where those mole holes are. You know these moles, they dig into your garden. You put it in the hole and it is going to help remove those holes. Some of them might die, but some of them are going to be repulsed, okay? And you can also use this experiment by dipping the tobacco into the water, and you use it for spraying, and you can see that it's going to kill, actually, these insects, okay? There are so many poisons in tobacco. More than 50 compounds, okay? You don't have to memorize all of this, but you can just see all of those toxicants and also carcinogens. When you say carcinogens, they are causing cancer. Okay, let us skip, okay? Okay, just imagine, okay, these are all the vinyl chloride that is in plastic, carbon monoxide found in the exhaust of cars, cadmium, which is used in batteries, are there. Nicotine, this is the one that is really very dangerous. That is what we call the addictive substance. Naphthalene, okay? Methanol, just to name a few of them. Now, nicotine is the substance that really produces what we call a high. Not only that, but gives you energy. And this is the one that is the addictive substance. So when you are going to smoke, the nicotine is going to go to your lungs and immediately goes to your brain. And then it is going to stimulate your pleasure centers. But at the same time, you see, nicotine is going to cause your heart rate to increase. And this is the reason why people are going to go into what we call hypertension or even a heart attack, okay? Now, be very careful because I'm just going to show you what are the substances that are actually addictive. When we say addictive, it appeals to your pleasure or your joy centers in your body, and as a result, you are going to crave for it. So when it comes to caffeine, you know where caffeine comes from? Coffee, isn't it? Kahawa. Eh? You know kahawa. Out of 100 people, 75 are going to become addicted. When it comes to cocaine, out of 100 people, 80 will be addicted. But here, look at nicotine. Out of 100 people, 95 are going to be addicted. And as I say, it takes only between 2 to 4 weeks, and a person who tries it will be hooked into it. Okay, carbon monoxide, this is the one that comes out from the exhaust of a car. And that's the one that deprives you of oxygen. Okay, here's again. Okay. Now, the problem is that if actually a person smokes and he's going to choke or he's going to die, then it is going to become a lesson. But you see, it takes between 10 to 15 years before the disease is going to develop. And as a result, you think, oh, anyway, it's okay. Okay, these are just some of the cancers that are involved. Now, as you smoke, the smoke enters into your mouth, into your lungs, into your throat, and finally into your bronchus or into your lungs. But as it goes into the lungs, it is going to be transmitted into the blood cells. So now, okay, so it does not end only in the lungs, but it is going to be distributed to the other parts of the body. Okay? So you can have leukemia, you can have cervical cancer, you can have pancreas, esophagus. So you have just a whole array of cancer that are involved there. Okay, lung cancers. As I said, this friend of mine had lung cancer and he died at about 55 years old. Okay, about 135 billion deaths because of cancer alone. Okay, lung cancer, smoking is the leading cause of lung cancer. But we also know that even people who are not smoking can also develop lung cancer because of the pollution of the environment. Here is just an X-ray to show you the cancer that is growing there. Okay. When you do an X-ray, you'll be able to pick it up. Okay, another one, see how big now the cancer is? The whole lung is being what we call cancerous. Okay, this is George Harrison, who used to be a member of the Beatles. He died, part of it because he was smoking, and he died of what we call throat cancer. I mean, okay, he actually died with throat cancer in 1998. And then later on, he was diagnosed with throat cancer that went to the lung. He really died because of lung cancer, which started first as a throat cancer. Okay, mouth. Okay. And part of it is because people are going to chew tobacco. Do not think that if you are going to chew it is innocent. It is still the same effect as smoking. But then, the areas that are going to be affected are your mouth and your tongue and your teeth, okay? And we know, you see that in some areas, they actually combine it with nuts or they combine it with other what we call leaves. Maybe mira, I don't know how it is here, but I know mira is also being smoked here. Some of you maybe combine it with mira. And this is the result. Your teeth are going to be involved, okay? And this young person, okay, was a very good, a promising athlete, but because he was smoking, he was chewing tobacco, and you can see now, this was before, and now because he was chewing tobacco, he actually developed cancer of the jaw, and he died. See now, that is what the doctors are going to do when we are going to try to remove the tumor that is in your jaw. We are going to slice the bone, you see, because it also goes to the bone. Now can you see how different it is with the one that has been affected? But some of them are so extensive, can you see, that it has already what we call scattered even to the parts of the skull. Okay, the larynx and the voice, remember our voice is very important. I just appreciate the singing that was done here. These guys would not be able to sing if they don't have actually what we call a voice box. Similarly, all of us, if we are not going to have the voice box, we cannot talk. So it is very important that we guard our voice box. But this also becomes what we call a victim of cancer, okay? Now, I don't know whether you know some, maybe some old people, you know this singer, Nat King Cole, again, died from cancer of the voice box. This is the voice box that we have. This is the normal voice box. And now you have actually cancer, see? This is the normal, and then there is this cancer that is growing. To have a clearer picture, this is now the cancer that is growing. And as a result, we need to put a little tube so that you'll be able to breathe, because sometimes the obstruction is so great that you cannot breathe anymore. Okay, cancer of the blood. Now, as I said, once you smoke, goes to the lungs, goes into the bloodstream, and finally it goes to the different parts of the body. Okay, and I said, for instance, leukemia. Okay, and one of our classmates became a victim of leukemia, as I said, when we were in high school. His name was Edwin. And Edwin also, he did not learn smoking from Ralph, but he was smoking by himself. And I did not know that he was not able to quit. But about 10 years ago, his sister, older sister, whom I was working with when I was in Botswana, actually approached me and told me that, I'm so sorry to tell you, but your classmate and my brother Edwin is suffering from cancer, leukemia. I said, wow, that's really sad. I said, what is the cause? Because really, you can also get cancer because of radiation. Okay? There are many causes of leukemia, but one of them is cancer because of smoking. He said, because he keeps on smoking. So I said, oh, I'm so sad to hear about it. I knew that he was smoking when we were in high school, but I thought he was able to quit. He wasn't able to quit. So the sister said, can you please help me to get me some medications to help him with his leukemia? I said, okay, I'll be able to source out. And I was able to source out medication called hydroxyurea, which is for cancer. And I gave it to the sister so that Edwin can use it. Well, when the sister gave him the medicine, because he was already hooked with smoking, even though he was already suffering from leukemia, he still continued to smoke. He said, anyway, there is medicine, I'll still continue to smoke. And you see how habit, it actually puts you under captivity. And even though you're already at the point of death, you know that this is going to produce death, you just continue because you just crave for it. And finally, after 1 year, Edwin died. So now I had 2 classmates who died because of smoking. Okay, cancer of the cervix. We mentioned to you that cancer of the cervix is caused by what we call a human papillomavirus. The human papillomavirus can be transmitted because of sex. But it is not only human papillomavirus that can cause cancer of the cervix. Ladies, that cancer of the cervix is the opening into the womb, okay? It is going to go into the mucosa of the cervix, and it is going to cause irritation, and it is carcinogenic, okay? So there is your cervix, okay? And this is cancer of the cervix. I tell you, ladies, when you are going to be smoking up, you're also smoking down. Because the effect is... Yeah, because now it is smoking up and down, isn't it? Now I'm trying to make this so that you would actually sink into your mind. I tell you, yes, I hope. Cancer of the esophagus, okay. So many of that, cancer of the kidneys, okay. We can go through all of this, but let us just go to, okay. Kidneys, for instance, urinary bladder. Why? It's because when you smoke, it goes to the blood, and it goes to the kidney, and it goes into the bladder. And if you don't keep on going into the bathroom to urinate, one way of actually preventing bladder cancer is you keep on passing out urine. But some of us, they would like to hold our urine and say, oh, how long can I hold my urine? Your chances of getting actually bladder cancer from anywhere is actually higher if you are not going to keep on urinating. The more you urinate, the more you actually go to the toilet and you drink water. Of course, you need to drink water because what will you urinate if you're not going to go and drink water? Drink water and pass out urine. That's very good, see? What happens is that now you go to the bowl. When you see this urine with blood, that is a very big indication that you have either cancer of the bladder or if not cancer of the kidneys. Now, can you see now? This is actually the bladder. Okay? Can you see? It is so cancerous. Okay, smoker's cough. And this is a big problem because when you keep on smoking, you have what we call this irritation. And this smoker, smoker's cough. Emphysema. I had a patient, okay? I had a patient, she was suffering from emphysema. What happens is that, as we know, the alveoli of the lung, they are actually elastic. They are just like what we call balloons or like grapes. That is how the structure of the alveoli is. Now, but what happens is that the normal alveoli, it expands like a balloon and it actually goes back. It expands and goes back for the air to be able to be accommodated. And then there is what we call exchange in the alveoli and the linings of the what we call blood vessels. But when it comes to emphysema, this alveoli becomes weak that it cannot anymore go back. Not only that, but because it cannot go back, it keeps on expanding until it is going to break. I tell you, this lady, she actually learned how to smoke from her father. And so when she was still small, 10 years old, because the father was smoking, she was also smoking. And she said, I really did not know that that was actually detrimental to me. I just followed my father. At 45 years old, she was already sick with emphysema, and she was bringing with here what we call an oxygen tank wherever she would go. Because without that oxygen tank, she wouldn't be able to breathe. But as you actually approach her, you can actually hear the lungs popping. I pitied that lady, and in a short time that I actually saw her, in about 3 months, she died. And because there was not adequate oxygenation in her body because of the emphysema, she became so thin, and she even reduced in size. She was used to be about 65 kilos. When she died, she was only about 40 kilos. Okay, fast aging, and of course, for you men, because some of you may not believe it, but that is what's going to happen if you are going to smoke. You're going to have what we call erectile dysfunction. Your ability of your little man here to tension. And I'm sure your wives are going to appreciate that, isn't it? And can you see? This is what is happening, gangrene. And now can you see this guy, yeah? Even removes. Oh, what happened now? Oh. Yeah, it will just fall down. I've seen actually patients like that in the hospital where in their toes or their what we call tips of their finger just fell down. This is what we call Berger's disease or Raynaud's phenomenon. Okay? Okay, smoking blocks the arteries. Okay, another one. So another schoolmate and classmate of ours, the same year that we graduated together. He actually, in fact, was a brother of a pastor, but because sometimes even though you are staying in a pastor's house, yet you have your own ideas, and he was smoking. And he even took up medicine. He finished as a medical doctor. When I saw him, oh, that's good, Abner. I'm so glad that you have finished medicine. Hey, 10 years down the line after I seen him, I said, what had happened to Abner? Oh, he died. He had a heart attack. Why? Smoking. So now you can see, I have 3 classmates who just died because of that, and started in high school. Now it actually happens. This is the brain. It is what we call a stroke. Okay, you see all the blood that is there. Now you say, well, I do not smoke, which is good. Okay, continue not to smoke. But there is what we call passive smoking. And this is it. That's the reason why the World Health Organization is declaring war, because even people who are not smoking are going to be affected with secondhand smoke. Okay? That is secondhand smoke. Okay? And secondhand smoke can even be more detrimental. So when somebody is smoking, you might as well distance yourself from that person, or else you will be breathing some of the smoke that comes from the cigarette. Okay? It's main smoke. Okay? And the problem is that especially in children, okay? In adults, it can cause lung cancer just because of breathing from somebody else, asthma and heart diseases. And these people are not even what we call smokers. They are just in the presence of smokers. How about children? Yes, children, you say? Middle ear infection, asthma, respiratory tract infections. And there's even a disease called sudden infant death syndrome, wherein babies just die sleeping in the crib. There are actually what we call infants below 1 year old. And if parents are smoking, then all of a sudden the child can die. Okay, effects of secondhand smoking. That's why they said sudden infant syndrome, heart disease, respiratory diseases, sinusitis, bronchitis, pneumonia. Okay, all of this, spontaneous abortion, even abortion. Can you see? Now, there is also a term called third-hand smoke. When we say third-hand smoke, when you are going to occupy a room in a hotel and people have been smoking, some of those residues of the cigarettes are going to stick in the carpet and they are going to stick in the curtains. And that even can cause what we call DNA damage. And when you are going to have DNA damage, you become more liable to develop what we call cancers of all sorts, you see. And that's the result, you see, DNA damage of third-hand smoke. And so we say, okay, do not start smoking, okay? But if not, then you actually quit from smoking. The church actually has a program called 5 Days or Breathe Free program, and you can actually access it even in the internet, and it is going to give you step by step by which you are able to overcome. Breathe Free, that's the one, okay? Now, there are so many ways of cessation, okay? That's actually the number, okay? Number 1 is patch. When people put a patch, okay? Number 2, they actually take something. Number 3, they actually go cold turkey. Cold turkey means you just stop all of a sudden, okay? Now, I pray that we are going to trust in God. This is the patch that you are going to use that is going to help you from stop smoking. And there is also a gum that you can use. And there is actually a tablet that you can take, and that is going to help you. But I tell you, the best way is to come to the Lord and really say, God, I need your help. It is impossible for me to kick the habit. Because it says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. If you have not started, do not start. If you are there, seek God's help and quit now before it is too late. Shall we pray? Thank you, dear Father, for this wonderful Sabbath of rest, of gladness and rejoicing in you. Thank you, Father, that you have given us this day wherein we can come into your very presence. I pray that you'll bless us as we enter the hours of the Sabbath. Sanctify us, and may it be that this would be another day of rejoicing in you and also getting to know you better. We pray especially for our young people here, dear Father. They are the targets of Satan and the devil who wants to destroy them, but I pray that you will keep them from falling. May they realize that they have a very bright future ahead of them and that Satan should not tempt them into destruction. Thank you for hearing our prayers. In Jesus' name, amen.